All right, everybody, you're listening to the Yishai Fleisher show. And what's the biggest question out there is Arab-Jewish relations, right? It's like, are the Jews going to make it in this region? Are the Arabs going to be able to stand us? We've had a 100-year war with the Arab world. And that's what's going on now, right? It's like we thought maybe it was calming down with the Abrahamic Accords. It was looking like a new era was coming. Maybe exactly because of that did this new era of war come upon us. The jihad is pushing back against Israel and against the idea of Israeli recognition of Israel, normalization of Israel in Arab eyes, in Muslim eyes. And so we're back in a period of hardcore jihad and away from the Abraham Accords. Well, that's one take anyway. But you hear me talking about this with people, of similar ilk and in our silo. But we have an opportunity today to hear from Morocco, from Rabat, Amine Ayoub, who is a policy analyst based in Morocco. He writes extensively about Middle Eastern affairs, was one of the first Muslims who started discussing and writing about the need to recognize and normalize with the state of Israel. Amine, thank you very much for joining us courageously here on the Yishai Fleisher show. So let's open it up. Let you start. Tell me where this is going. Are we are we heading towards jihadism? Are we heading towards Abrahamism, or something else that I don't understand?
Well, it's not as easy as a lot of people think. I actually started this almost 10 years ago, back in 2015. I actually went openly in some videos on social media. But this did not start openly just in 2015. I always, since my teenage years, I always was a little bit questioning the whole Palestinian-Israeli issue. And I never actually believed in the one-side story when I looked at those demonstrations that were around the city of Rabat when I was in high school. So I always had this second idea about why don't we hear from the other side? And one of the things I actually had issues with also is the one-sided story of religion. I always questioned Islam. I wanted to know about the other religions also, because, this conflict, the main issue with it is religion. And a lot of people, they bring in religion into it. They bring in the Jews, how the Prophet was dealing with the Jews, but sometimes those citations and the Prophet's actions go against what's going on right now, because as some of the texts in Islam, if they can be changed or the way they're being explained in a different way. But as me, as a Muslim, I always understood that God and his prophet would not want this stuff to happen, to be against humanity and humans in general. So as I said, back in 2015, I started working on this. I wrote my first article with the Jerusalem Post, where I think it was published back in 2016. And your audience can actually take a look at it. It's called Young People in the Middle East Need Peace or something like that. And that's where I explained a little bit my story and the need to actually look into, for the Arab or the Muslim youth, to look into the other story, to look a little bit deeper on the conflict and what's going on. Because the conflict has been used for many years, not just for, it's actually being used for internal affairs of Arab countries. Whenever you have internal issues, social issues in employment, you'll have the Palestinian flag flying around, thinking that Israel is behind all of what's happening in the Arab world. And I heard a story, I think this happened a couple of weeks ago or last week in Portugal, where there was some demonstrations about high prices of rent or real estate in general, where they actually had the Palestinian flags flying around again. So this issue is not just being religious; it's being brought up all the time, and it's actually a little bit more complicated than how people think. So Again, I was in Israel lately. My first visit was back then in 2016. I was actually shocked by the way a lot of things actually were were happening in Israel. My first shock was I was like uh, I was planning to have like army blockades between my trip from Ben-Gurion to Jerusalem, but everything was actually peaceful. Then my second shock is when I was looking around and I found Arabs working there. Not just Arabs, Israeli Arabs, but also I met people coming from the West Bank, especially construction workers were in front of my hotel, or no, that was in Haifa. It was a construction site in front of where I was staying in Haifa. There were Arabs. I spoke with them. I told them I was from Morocco. They told me, "Oh, we come here. We have to leave early in the morning because of all the. It takes them time to get into Israel and stuff." So, and I was shocked about how those people were trying just to live, to survive. They did not actually bring it into. They did not bring in any politics into the discussions. They were just talking about the way they wanted to survive like everyone else. All right. Then last year, this last August, I was there again in Israel. I tried to meet some people from different media, and I did an interview with ILTV, which is part of Ynet, where I discussed the Saudi normalization with Israel. And personally, I think the all what's happening right now is some uh, external forces were trying to stop that agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel, mostly the Iran proxies. Uh, I don't like to use this word proxy because it's becoming deja vu in many media outlets. Uh, I've been trying to write something to actually find more evidence of those being like when we're talking about the Houthis, Hamas. I know Hezbollah is openly. We have evidence that Hezbollah is being financed by Iran. I stated on my interview that Saudi Arabia sees itself as the protector of Muslim sites, religious sites, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So it becomes a little bit complicated, and the religion gets into it. But in general,
That doesn't make exactly sense to me because I've read and I've heard a lot of times that the Saudis actually see Jerusalem as a type of threat to their holy sites, right? So in many ways it's like a competition to their holy sites, and it's also taken care of by the custodians are the Hashemites, who are basically the enemies of the House of Saud. So like Jerusalem is a competition to Mecca and Medina, and the house of the Hashemites are a competition to the House of Saud. What do they need it for? You know, I'm always wondering at Saudi Arabia. I just think to myself, Saudi Arabia, and they have this new guy, you know, MBS, who new guy. He's a king of Saudi Arabia. He's he wants to move forward. Clearly, he's afraid of Iran. Clearly, he wants a modernization. So I think to myself, what are you lining up with the Palestinians for at all? Why don't you say the truth? Why don't you say the truth, which is I don't care about the Palestinians. I really want regional security and normalization and push back against Iran and the Houthis that are yes, an Iran proxy or whatever they are. They're endangering Saudi Arabia. So I sometimes wonder, like, why are you playing this old game? Why don't you play the new game that you could have played, which is like which is like the Abraham Accords? Just I want to be part of the Abraham Accords. Yes, I'm the custodian of Islam and all that, but it's time to accept the Jews as part of a regional reality. They're a regional minority. They're part of the deal. They could help me out with security. They could help me out with modernization. And Palestinianism is nothing but regressive stuff that is not very different than the very ISIS that I fight in Saudi Arabia. So I sometimes wonder at MBS, I'm like, don't you want to already get past all this old stuff already and start moving into the new era?
Well, Ishai, this hate has been going on for many years. People like me who come with different voices, we're rare around this part of the world. And MBS would not go straight forward and shock the Islamic world with a decision like that. Because, Wahhabism is a long story, and they've been trying to use it politically in many parts of the world. This is not just a religious thing, it's politics also. And they've been trying to fight the Shiite part of Islam with different ideologies. Right now, what we can see, and I personally think, is the uprising of Shiite terrorism, which is Iran backed, like the Houthis, what's going on with Hezbollah. Before, it was Sunni terrorism with ISIS, with Al Qaeda. And we can see what's going on. You heard the story that actually ISIS attacked Iran a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, which was a funny story.
Well, the truth is that if you remember, a lot of the people that make up ISIS are actually from the old Saddam Hussein Iraqi army. So it's not so surprising that a lot of these ISIS members are very angry at Iran for really taking over Iraq, and so they struck back at them. It's not so surprising to me.
Yeah, and I wrote an article on the Jerusalem Post back in 2022, exactly August 22, 2022, where the title of it says the enemies of Israel are becoming more jihadist or more extreme, something like that. And I felt at that time last year when there were many attacks. The reason I follow those stories is because I follow Israeli news.
Mm-hmm.
CNN, CNBC, Fox News, many other channels. Oh, Al Jazeera! I hate Al Jazeera. That's another topic I'm going to be talking about. I'm writing an article about it. Nobody talks about those attacks. When a Jew dies, nobody wants to talk about him. You know how many people died last year in Israel? I think it was more than 40. Do you know that?
I do.
Yeah, before October 7th.
Yeah, that's right.
And you had those ISIS-style attacks, similar to what happens in Europe. People running around with rifles, shooting people, shooting innocent people. I don't know if you know Hillel. That's his name, right? Hillel Fold.
Hillel
Yeah,
Fold,
I
sure.
met him when I was in Israel back in 2016, and his brother died. I actually saw the video.
His brother was a good friend of mine, and I
Right.
even won a recognition based on Ari Fold's name, which is the brother that was killed. Yeah.
So I did not meet Ari, but those kind of stories, nobody wants to talk about them. How innocent people die all the time. So those. I'm going back to my article where I actually felt that this hate was leading to something. And that's why I wrote that article a year ago, before October 7th, and what happened. I felt like there was something coming, more extreme. Because extreme hate always leads to something bad.
I mean, how are Hamas viewed right now on the Arab street? Are they riding high? Are people into Hamas and what they did? Like, do you feel like is Hamas cool right now?
Al Jazeera plays.
Well, Al Jazeera is a Qatari funded jihadist, Qaradawi style, Israel hate. But I'm talking about the average Arab street, what you're seeing on the streets of Rabat.
That's what I'm telling you. I live in Morocco. I look what's going on. Mm-hmm. When you go to a coffee shop there after October 7th, and after Israel started attacking its enemies, okay, I am with Israel, and I openly say it. I don't
Is
care.
that safe for you to say it in your part of the world?
Why it is safe right now? Maybe if somebody wants to kill me, I don't care. But I'm always. I
Well,
don't think the
we
police
care.
would
We
come
care.
and
I
get
mean,
me for that.
yeah.
But
But you are in Morocco. You know, my mother was recently in Morocco for a 10-day trip and said it was fabulous.
yeah, it is fabulous.
Um,
I mean, the government and our king. As long as we have a kingdom, we had the Islamist party controlling the government for 8 years. They were also open-minded. Morocco, unless you have some strange extremist guy who comes up to you, but in general, it's very safe.
right.
Okay, so
So
what I was
being
saying,
pro-Israel is relatively safe
yeah,
in
it
Morocco.
is. Yeah.
Not
You're gonna get some hateful speech,
right.
but nobody's gonna be that violent. All right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like me, they call me the Jew.
Uh-huh.
All right, they may call me the Mossad guy, the Jew.
Well, you're not Mossad because you're all the way out there. So that's
Well, you
Jew.
never know. That's what they think. I always tell them I wish.
Right.
So
That's right.
going back to Al Jazeera. So you go to a coffee shop, you have Al Jazeera on, you have people sipping on their coffees,
And that's what they're
not
saying.
very educated people. Maybe even if you're educated, you've never been to Israel. You hear these things from a young age. Of course you're gonna hate. Of course you're gonna like Hamas. All right.
Well, so incitement and propaganda works. Education works. You teach Israel hate. That's what you get. That's what you get. And it's also it's also it's great to hate Israel because it's easy. The world's problems are the Jews. Problems in the Arab world are the Jews. And Morocco is a decent country, but you go to like Egypt, which is not a decent country, just full of poverty. Sometimes I wonder why. Why is it so poor? But it is. It's so poor for what? You have great tourism potential. You have great manufacturing potential. You're sitting on the Red Sea and on the Med Sea. It's like you should be loaded. But I sometimes think to myself, it's anti-Semitism that makes them poor because it makes you blame all your problems on somebody else instead of wanting to grow your economy and grow, and take the opportunities that you have. And I think spiritually also it subdues people because living a life of hate and hating Jews is not a blessing. But
Well,
they
that's what
are.
I'm telling you. It's like
Go ahead.
politicians. Politicians have been using Islam
Right.
for to brainwash people also.
Yeah, but
Right?
it's been done for 100 years. For God's sakes, when are we going to already snap out of that?
New generations are. I mean, with the Arab Spring and one of my articles I wrote again on the Jerusalem Report, the magazine. I was talking about the importance of monarchies and the stability of the region. Because as you can see, most of the monarchies, nothing happened in them regionally. Like Morocco, we always have our king and his latest dad, Hassan II. I mean, we have different tribes. We have the Berbers. We have three different types of Amazigh Berbers here in Morocco. We have Arab-speaking people. We have almost four languages here in Morocco, but
French.
everybody
Yep.
is under one umbrella. All right,
Because you have
and
a strong kingdom.
A lot of Berbers coexisted. I don't like the word coexisted because coexistence is like if I coexist with you, it means that I don't like you, but I just live with you, live around you, right? So they call it the coexistence between the Muslims and Jews, but I don't like that. I mean, they live together. Arabs and Jews live together here in Morocco for a while. We still have a big community in Casablanca. That's probably the only city where you have a big Jewish community, around 2,000 people there, 2,000 Jews. But under the leadership of a king, you still have all these different people agreeing on something, right? And Morocco went far away into this coexistence, and we still have some social and economic issues in Morocco, but they're being solved step by step. The main issues that we have here are usually like other third world countries is corruption, economic issues. This year has been tough because the Moroccan economy counts a lot on the agriculture. And Israel was always helping Morocco when it comes to technology, even before these Abraham Accords. A lot of people think
It saddens me what you're saying, because it's so obvious to me that what Israel and this the Arab world has no understanding of at all. Israel's DNA is that it wants to help. Certainly, Africa has always wanted to help Africa, and wants to be this kind of channel for good energy in the region, for security, stability, and for economic prosperity. That's the force that Israel wants to be. I think to myself, what a missed opportunity for the last 100 years. But already now, when we could see, like, there's such an opportunity, like I saw, by the way, I don't even call Amine, I don't even like to call the Middle East. I like to call it the Abrahamic region. That's what I like to call it. The Middle East is a very European-centered way of titling our region. I like to call it the Abrahamic region. And we have such an opportunity here, and yet this jihadism has come back with a vengeance, and also with the support of the American administration. Iran has grown, Palestinianism has grown, jihadism has come back and is now the dominant paradigm, at least for now, until it gets quashed. All right, listen, we only have a few minutes left, and we can talk again, of course. But what's your prognosis for the near future? How do you see the near future shaping up?
Yeah, you brought up American politics into it. So I think the far left is another danger. You add the far left with Islamism. That's another danger to the future of the region, right? I've been doing some work right now with some think tanks in the U.S., working on different issues of the integration of Islamism inside the U.S. Those ideologies are close to the far left. You have the bill that passed yesterday in the Senate with $60 billion going to Ukraine, almost 15 billion going to only 15 billion to Israel. But the Republicans in the House probably would not pass it today. Imagine the Republicans being against aid to Israel. I mean, this is something new. I mean, before, I think the American politics play a big role in the region, and I hope that voters will look into that in the upcoming elections.
I agree with you, especially about the point that you're making of the what I call the progressive jihad axis. That's what I call it, the progressive jihad axis. And it is a dangerous force, not just for Israel, but for the world, for sure. Listen, I mean, people like you and I have got to keep talking. We got to keep opening up the channels of relationships. The region will not be blessed through jihadism or progressivism. It'll be blessed when the children of Abraham start to work together for a stronger region that pushes back against jihadism and works towards economic opportunity, towards tourism of our beautiful region, of developing our beautiful region, of subduing the forces that want to darken our minds and keep us in a backwards period. And not in a period, by the way, of blessings and love. That's another thing. There's just no jihad is the opposite of an atmosphere of love and reconciliation, normalization, and just channeling the opportunities that this region, even just the natural resources, are so stymied by this dark attitude. And certainly for the Arab world, it is a disaster. I know that right now Hamas is riding high because of their success. But at the end, it's not a success. In the long term, it's not a success. So we got to keep talking. But as you said very clearly, it also depends on what's in the cafe shops. It depends on what's on the TV
before we
screen.
finish, Yishai, I want to just
Go
bring
ahead.
up something. A lot of people would ask me, what do you think the solution is? During my last visit over there, I sent you an article where I actually told you that I support Ben-Gvir for his ideologies. A lot of people think I'm crazy. A lot of Israelis don't agree with me.
And a lot do.
I don't know.
Well,
The ones that contacted me, they were like, "Oh, that's weird. That's a Muslim would actually," because the title says, "I'm a Muslim who supports
Ben-Gvir." Right, that's right.
And one of the ideologies that I have is a two-state solution would never work, and this has been taken too much effort from both sides. And on the other hand, I experienced Israeli life, and I know the issues that Israel economically goes over and goes through. It's another country with its own economic issues and things, social issues and things like that. So to assimilate, because me personally, I think those Palestinians, if they don't like to be assimilated into the Israeli society, they need to move somewhere else. Assimilation will also be hard for Israel. A lot of people think it's easy to assimilate that much people. Israel has its own issues. If you look up right now, it's at 28%, almost 28% poverty rate. Do they really think that assimilating those people is easy for Israel? It's not. I mean, this is the way I see it. Because if we keep on going like this, Hamas may be crushed, but you may have some other crazy dudes coming in, all right, and brainwashing those people again. And that's my last word.
Amine Ayoub, I want to thank you very much for bravely coming on the show. You can get in trouble for your words in the Arab world, and that's why in the Muslim world, and that's why your courage honors us, and your voice should be heard in the cafes of Rabat and Casablanca.
No, but I have people who agree with me in Morocco.
There you go.
Just to let you know.
Absolutely. And you are indeed a policy analyst based in Morocco. You write extensively about Middle East affairs. You're one of the first Muslims who started discussing and writing about the need to recognize and normalize with the state of Israel. Amine Ayoub, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.